Hello everyone. Today we are going to study the summary of the portrait of a lady. The portrait of a lady is a real story of the writer Khushwant Singh's grandmother. His grandmother was an old lady. The writer tells us the story of his childhood that he had spent with his grandmother. The writer has explained his relationship with his grandmother. He thinks about her daily activities. He mentions her appearance too. She appeared to be so old that he could not imagine her being young and pretty. She was short, fat, and slightly bent. The author had seen her grandfather's portrait. He was an old man with a turban and a long white beard covering his chest. His grandfather did not seem like a man who could have a wife and children, but he seemed as he had only lots of grandchildren. His grandmother used to move around the house in spotless white sari with one hand resting on her waist and the other counting the beads of her rosary. In the initial days, the author and his grandmother had a good relationship. She used to wake him up and get him ready for school. She used to pack the things required him for the day and walked with him to school every day. She used to visit the temple that was attached to the school. She had a routine of reading the scriptures. The author, along with other children, sat on the veranda, sitting alphabets and morning prayers. They both used to come back home together with stray dogs. The dogs came with them because of the stale chapatis. Soon the parents of the author who went to the city to settle in called them. When they reached the city, his relationship with his grandmother took a turn. Though they lived in the same room, their bond grew apart. He started going to an English medium school. She no longer accompanied him to his school. There were no longer stray dogs in the streets. She used to ask him about his day and what he had learned. She didn't approve of the new syllabus that he was studying because she thought that they did not teach him about God and scriptures. They saw less of each other. As the days passed, he grew older and soon went to the university. He had his own room and this made their relationship sour. She stopped talking to anyone and spent her whole day sitting at her spinning wheel, reciting prayers and moving beads of rosary with one hand. She loved feeding sparrows in the veranda in the morning. The birds used to sit on her legs, her head, and even on the shoulders. Soon the author decided to go abroad for further studies. She came to the railway station to leave him off. After 5 years, she came to pick him at the station. She was still the same as she had been 5 years ago. One day, she didn't recite her prayers, but instead collected the women of the neighborhood, got a drum, and started singing. The next morning, she was ill with a mild fever. The doctor said that there was nothing to worry about, but she was sure that her end was near. She didn't want to waste her time talking to anyone in the family. She spent her last hours in reciting her prayers, laying on the bed. She died. On her death, sparrows came and sat in the veranda around her. They were sad on her death. In short, the writer and his grandmother had a beautiful bond between them. They loved each other very much. The story tells us how beautiful a relationship can become between a grandson and his grandmother. Thanks for listening me.